everyone, my name is Rachel, and recently I've been reading a lot of religious blogs, especially Christian blogs, not only as a means of kind of like finding content I'd like to talk about here on my channel, but also as a means of kind of understanding people with different views from me and trying to kind of like see things from their point of view a little bit. Often I'm kind of seeing that, you know, maybe religious people aren't quite so like crazy and over the top as sometimes they're portrayed to be. And sometimes I feel like I'm learning something, sometimes I think, you know what, they have some good ideas here, even if they are kind of getting their evidence or proof or reasoning from a holy text like the Bible or Quran that maybe I don't think is the best influence. As long as they kind of come out of that and they have something kind of like inspiring to say, something that encourages people to lead a good life, I kind of get behind that and I don't really mind it too much. But then I sometimes find blog posts or just opinion pieces, videos, that just kind of make me say why. Sometimes they make me cringe, sometimes they make me a little bit angry, and sometimes I just end up just feeling like, what? Today is one of those days. I came across this website called Lies Young Women Believe. And there's a lot of stuff on here that I don't like and I don't agree with. And I think I might actually make a kind of like series of videos on this website and some of their posts, because there's a lot of kind of strange stuff on here that I don't agree with, and that I think kind of their logic and rationality is kind of like fundamentally flawed, and I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Today, the blog post I really want to focus on is one called 10 Tips for Interacting with an Atheist. Now, I'm an atheist. I figured maybe I could learn something from this. Maybe I could start to understand my critics a little bit more. So I think we should just get started and get right into this article. So the post opens with, for the past month I've had the unexpected privilege of corresponding with an atheist. Fair enough, they've been talking, that's fine, that's cool. When I was your age, I would have freaked at the idea of dialoguing with an atheist. Come on, atheist isn't a dirty word. Atheist isn't something to be afraid of. Like, why do religious people make atheists out to be, you know, like the devil, like a physical embodiment of the devil? I'm not gonna like sit here and like try and eat your kids. I'm not some big scary monster. All I'm gonna do is say, I don't agree with you. Here's some logic and reason why. The idea of being like afraid of an atheist is just like you're afraid that people are gonna see reason and leave your religion. Like, that's the only reason I can think why you would be afraid of talking with an atheist. So anyway, she goes on and she starts and she has these 10 tips for interacting with an atheist. And her first tip is, don't wait till you have all the answers. You'll never have all the answers or be able to fully wrap your mind around God. He's way too big for that. Which pretty much translates to, you'll never have all the answers because there's no logic or reasoning that actually leads to God existing, so why bother trying? What a great opportunity for you to stretch your brain and your faith muscles. Here's the thing, like, you shouldn't need to like practice faith. Like, faith is belief without evidence. You can't argue for something existing without evidence. You can't just say, oh well, it's all about faith, isn't it? And think that that's going to stand up in an argument against reason and logic and facts. Like, that's just silly. Point number 2 is, don't freak out when your atheist friend makes God sound like a fool. If their arguments appear convincing, if they sound like they know more about God's word than you do, that doesn't mean God's word is broken. Go study the passages they mentioned in context. Atheists and Christians can both be bad at taking verses out of context, but remember, God's word is perfect. Which basically means, go read the Bible, assume everything in it is true and fact, and take it at face value, and don't bother to think for yourself. Atheists sound logical? Pfft, no. Just don't listen to them. They're not talking truth. Don't be silly. No. Don't actually think for yourself. Don't try and understand what they're saying. Don't try and see things from multiple perspectives. No. Only God. You can't have an opinion, only God can have an opinion. Atheists, their opinion doesn't count because only God's opinion counts. That's what I'm hearing here, and it seems really stupid. Yeah, go study the passages they mentioned in context, and then maybe you'll become an atheist. This idea of like, remember, God's word is perfect, is just so silly because like, no, nothing's perfect. We shouldn't just be teaching people to just believe everything they read. We should be teaching people, especially young people, to think critically and critically assess every single thing they read and come across and think for themselves. Number 3, don't feel like you have to offer an answer right away. It's okay to tell them, I'm not sure, let me get back to you, and then spend time thinking, praying, and researching before responding. This is fair enough, I totally get this. I think it's perfectly reasonable if you want to be informed and knowledgeable to say, I don't know about this right now, let me go do some research and try and understand it a bit more. This is one point that I think is absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, you do get religious people who ask a question to atheists, and if an atheist says, oh, I don't know right now, let me do some research. Or if atheists say, oh, we don't know the answer to that right now, hundreds of scientists are currently researching it. Apparently that's not an okay answer. So I'm feeling like there might be a little bit of a double standard here on some religious people's part. Not all, but some. So interesting little point there. Okay, number 4, expect a whole lot of objections. These will range from, the Bible is full of contradictions, to, the Bible has so many translations from so many different languages, to, the God of the Old Testament is different from the God of the New Testament, to a whole lot more. That's absolutely true. They are perfectly reasonable arguments. None of these objections hold, by the way, if you do your homework. No, I'm sorry, but if you read the Bible, you will find it is full of contradictions. Within the first 2 parts of Genesis, there are contradictions. You don't have to go far to find a contradiction. You don't have to go far to know that different translations show things in a different way, and there are still words that we're not sure have been kind of like translated or interpreted correctly. All you have to do is look at the passages about like homosexuality and stuff. The one where people say this is why homosexuality is wrong, there's a lot of kind of debate around whether a specific word in that actually means homosexuality, or if it means something slightly different and it's kind of been taken out of context or what. There's a lot of debate around things like that, and that's why you shouldn't just take objections or questions like this and say, no, doesn't matter. If you stick with your atheist friend long enough, these aren't usually the main reasons they don't believe in God. Listen for their main objection. It might take several conversations to get there. Yeah, different people have different reasons for being atheists, but you can't deny that these are very, very good reasons for why they maybe don't believe in specifically Christianity or whatever. It's just... Okay, number 5, be winsome in how you share truth. When Jesus shared truth, it was with grace. That is, except for the times he talked with the religious snobs who claimed to know God but trusted in their own good works. Wait, what? So basically you're saying you've got to be as good as Jesus, except ignore those times Jesus wasn't good and, you know, he didn't speak with grace, because he's allowed, because he's Jesus. Your atheist friend is not your enemy. They're held captive by your shared enemy, the God of this world. Notice the little g, that's referring to Satan, has blinded the minds of unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. So basically, atheists have been blinded by Satan, which is strange to say. We don't believe in Satan. How can we be blinded by someone we don't believe in? How can we be blinded by someone who doesn't exist? This just seems strange. And besides, if God's supposed to be all-powerful, why hasn't he got rid of Satan yet? Why is he letting Satan blind us like this? This doesn't make sense. Number 6, continue to share truth from the Bible with your friend, even if they don't believe in the Bible. Well, that's stupid. If someone has a problem with the Bible, you can't use the Bible to tell them that they're wrong. If someone says, I don't believe the Bible is a good source of evidence, you can't come back to them and say, but in the Bible it says. Like, that just makes no sense. How can they believe the truth if they do not hear the truth? If you ever offend your atheist friend, may it be with God's words and not your own. If your friend hears God's word but never believes it, the fault did not lie with God's word, but with the condition of his or her heart. There is literally no proof that anything in the Bible is actually God's word. And even if it was, even if you're trying to like say that it's God's word, we don't believe there's a God. So whether it's God's word or not means nothing to us. And I'm sorry, but if we have problems with things like the Bible talking about how slavery is okay, or that we should be killing babies, or that women are just servants to men, if we have a problem with that, the problem isn't with us. Just because I don't want to be a servant to Dan, that doesn't mean the problem's with me. The problem is with whatever text or person is telling me I should be a servant. Do you not see how crazy this is? Know that answering their questions and providing evidence will never be enough to change their minds. I'm sorry, but if you have to put evidence in quotes, it's clearly not real evidence. Number 8, it's not about you. Don't let your hopes be dashed if your atheist friend doesn't change his or her mind. I think that's fair, yeah. Let them go and believe in what they want to believe, and you just believe whatever you want to believe. That's fine, leave it there. Don't think you're the bomb.com if he or she does. Was this written in the 90s? Okay. It is not... the bomb.com. It has not been a waste if they don't become a believer through your conversations. Who knows what God has done in their heart through their interaction with you. But even if their heart has only grown more hard, if you have studied God's word with vengeance, if your faith has grown, it has been worth it. I'm just gonna move on from that one at that. Okay, number 9. Keep sharing the gospel with them every chance you get, even as you're seeking to answer their questions. Don't forget to point them to Jesus every chance you get. Now this is stupid. This is just like pushing your ideas on someone who doesn't want to hear it. If I say to you, can you prove a point without using the Bible? If you then start using the Bible and saying, but in the Bible it says, I'm just going to stop listening because you're clearly not listening to me. This conversation clearly isn't going anywhere. Constantly just saying, but in the Bible, but in the Bible, but in the Bible. Like, that's not going to get anyone anywhere. That's not going to answer any questions. That's not going to be a productive, useful conversation. And number 10, ask a wise Jesus follower for help. Wear a body for a reason. You don't have all the answers or gifts, and neither do I. Ask your church elders for help. Okay, so on the one hand, I'm like, great advice for kids. If you don't know something, go ask someone who does. If you're struggling with something, go ask an adult. I like that advice. But at the same time, like, if you and a friend are just having a casual one-on-one conversation, and then you come back to them and say, here's my local priest and my parents and 10 other adults I know, they're gonna tell you why you're wrong. That's a little bit kind of scary and terrifying and a little bit weird. I like how she ends this with, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever lovingly challenged an atheist's beliefs? How did it go? I don't think there's anything like lovingly challenging about telling someone that they're the physical like embodiment of Satan and they're just being controlled by Satan, and I don't know, it seems weird to me. The comments on this are kind of like crazy enough as well. Like this one comment here. Oddly enough, we've been studying atheism in our Wednesday night Bible study and how to combat it. Last night we were challenged to find 4 unsaved people in the next 8 weeks and ask them why. Personally, I've loved seeing how God's word has all the answers to their arguments, and I can't wait to see what he will be teaching me in the next 8 weeks. I don't know, I find this whole thing is really silly, and I don't see how God's word has all the answers. You could make anything up and say it's the answer to anything. Like if I write a book saying there's a giant octopus and he created the universe and he says that we should kill all babies who are born between March 3rd and April 4th every year because that's what the giant octopus wants. And I have no proof that any of that is like real or anything, but I put it in a book and I tell people to believe it, and then when they question me with anything I say, but in the book it says, the giant octopus says. You can't use something without evidence as evidence for something else. I feel like I'm rambling here, but does this make sense? Like, you can say anything is an answer to like arguments and stuff, but if that anything isn't backed up by facts and proof and evidence, then it doesn't mean anything. You can quote the Bible all you want, but as long as there's no like actual evidence or proof and the Bible's not actually backed up with facts, that doesn't mean anything. Anyway, I'm just gonna end this here because there's not a lot more I can say, but I would love to know your thoughts. What do you think on these 10 tips for interacting with an atheist? Would any of these work on you as an atheist? or as a Christian or any other kind of religious person, have you used these tactics on anyone and do you think they actually work? I don't know, I would love to hear your thoughts and your comments and just know what you guys are thinking. I love seeing all the conversations that go on in the comments. There's a lot of stuff I don't agree with, but there's also a lot of stuff I do agree with, and it's just nice to kind of like have a conversation going on down there. But anyway, I'm going to end this here and just say, if you have made it through this far in the video, I really do appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.